Welcome to the Moms I Know with Sheila Walsh-Denton and Maria Anderson-Farner. Two moms on a mission to reclaim childhood and take you from surviving to thriving on your parenting journey. The Moms I Know is your go-to source for motivation, inspiration, and resources, and real conversation about motherhood and parenting with intention. Thank you for being a part of our community. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
A meaningful life is composed of a series of meaningful moments. If this is what we want, then the ability to infuse each moment with meaning would seem to be a skill worth practicing.
Hi, this is Maria.
And this is Sheila.
And we want to welcome you to the Moms I Know.
So we're talking today about meaningful moments. In our last episode, well, actually 2 episodes ago, we talked about roots and wings, and we were really trying to emphasize that we give our children these roots and then we want them to fly. And we kind of brought into it both Maria and I have moved within the past year. And really, we were rooted and then we flew and then we're rooted again. So what are those events, moments that can root us in our new home while strengthening our family culture?
Yeah, I really feel like this idea of meaningful moments is what has been, the key here. And so we've gotten a couple of questions about wanting more detail about what are the things that you both have done that your kids, that you have such a strong family culture, that your kids want to come home and be with you, that they want to fly, that they have the confidence to fly. I mean, all of our children have that really strong confidence to fly, but they also love to come home. And I just want to tell a quick little story. Years ago, we were visiting with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law had really observed this, that our kids, enjoyed spending time with us. And they asked us, what did you do that created that? And so, the fact that they did notice this was really so striking to me. And yes, we'd worked hard to create this really loving, caring family. And so I think that's, we want to get into the details here of some of the things. I mean, we've talked about many things over the years of our podcast episodes, but, just specifically giving our listeners some ideas of what they can do. And, we can talk about some of the things that we've done, and hopefully there'll be inspiration for all of you.
And there definitely will be a lot of, I would say, cross-pollination, things you might have heard before. The thing that came to my mind was it's a little bit different now in the terms of screens. I feel like the screen piece, and we've done episodes on this, but the screen piece is one where people are dispersing to their own caves, for lack of a better, to their own rooms and being on the screen. And I think we really have to look at that as well, and really acknowledge that, because it almost gives more meaning to those moments. And you just have to cultivate, and like the opening quote said, is really practice that you are putting meaning into what you're doing, and especially around those events, the holidays, the birthdays, the celebrations, which, okay, here we go again, is that piece of family school, the culminating piece of family school, which makes it so important. So, Maria, what are some of the celebrations that you are bringing to your grandchildren, that your children are asking for, that you're seeing, in another generation? I'd love to hear.
Right. And so, there were the things that we did when they were young children, and then there were other celebrations that kind of came in the mid-years, and then, of course, the teens are different, and you're going through that right now. But we really, definitely, we looked at the seasons, always celebrating some of those seasonal activities that were happening in our community. We sometimes had to fabricate them, like if it wasn't, if the apples weren't ripening right then, but it was kind of apple harvest time, we'd have to go and find that a little bit. The holidays, and, each of our listeners is going to have maybe different family values, different religious or cultural types of celebrations. And in our family, we wove together some of them from both sides of the family, both backgrounds. And so but always coming back to this idea of making things special. And I'm so glad you brought up the screen piece, because I think what happens is that really takes away from the creating of the family culture. And so it does take practice, and it also takes a strong will. And I've heard some stories lately of parents really making that conscious decision to protect their family time. And sure, it's easy to just, watch a movie or go off to your different devices or screens, but to really cultivate that family time is so precious. And so take, for example, just a birthday. And this is something that we've always done. And we've had the birthday silk. It's a rainbow silk, and that goes on the back of the chair of the person who's having the birthday. So when they wake up in the morning, the special birthday silk is on their chair. Their place is set with a candle. So, candles have always been important for us around the meal times, the celebrations, that lighting of the fire. We've also had the fire pit. And so, I'm thinking we've talked about, how food can be special, the music, the songs that we sing, the lighting of that fire. There might be certain items of clothing that are special, the scarves, the silks, that kind of thing, the art that's there. But they would always come down, and there would be a book as the first gift. That was the morning gift. And so that would be wrapped and at their place. And in the morning they could open up their book. We'd light the candle, and then we'd have a special breakfast. We would always sing a special birthday song. And when the kids got older and were exposed to Waldorf education, there's this very sweet Waldorf birthday song that's a different one than Happy Birthday, but we've also done the Happy Birthday song. So that was one thing that was very special with the birthdays. And it's like, how do we make this child feel so honored for who they are? And it doesn't take much time, and we're going to eat breakfast anyhow, but just that night before. And there was also a beautiful little verse from the book Festivals, Families, and Food that was the night before the birthday. And I don't have it in front of me, but it's in that book. And it's a very sweet little birthday verse that we would read together as they're getting ready to go to sleep before they're going to be a year older the next morning.
That sounds like a lovely tradition. Is that the book by Tasha Tudor?
No, that's the Tasha Tudor book, and that's another one I highly recommend. It's called A Time to Keep. And that was something that we read, and it's a little girl asking her mommy what life was like. Asking her grandmother what life was like when mommy was a little girl. And so Tasha Tudor takes you through the months of the year and the celebrations that they did in New England, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's just charming. And so we did take some of our celebrations from that book. We did take some celebrations from Waldorf education, but we also celebrated the seasons and then the holidays that our family observed.
It seems like a new trend that, I don't know if your daughter did this, but to mark birthdays, they're having like little props. And so, like the first year birthday, they're in a certain chair, second year birthday in the same chair, sort of thing. So you can have a picture of your child for like the 18 years in the same chair. Mm-hmm. Wherever you move or in front of a tree. I know somebody who does it on the redwood loop, and they, each marker on the redwood loop from 1 to 12 or whatever, they have their birthday right next to it,
Oh, that's beautiful.
But for us, similar to the birthday silk, we always make sure the night before to put up the birthday banner. And that's something when I made when Tag was a baby, I've just got some felt and just, wrote happy birthday on a banner, and then it just comes up and everyone makes sure, where's the birthday banner? Where's the birthday banner? Another thing we do is we, whether we're out at a restaurant and whether we might have a friend or a family member with us at the birthday dinner, whatever that looks like, it's saying, like for the birthday person, what is one word or a phrase that you can say that represents this, the birthday person, so it's just kind of like a little bit of accolades of why you're so special, and I think that really is something that each family member looks forward to hear what everybody is thinking, what everybody's just like grateful for this person in our lives. And so that's been really meaningful.
I love that. And it's involving the whole family. And so as the children get older, the other children can get things ready. You know, so often they would be the reminding little beings. It's like, you know, okay, it's so-and-so's birthday tomorrow, and making sure and making gifts and just really that piece of awareness. And so all of the children get excited about somebody's birthday and how that's going to be celebrated.
And it's really, especially when they're little, you really have the opportunity to cultivate this like homemade, handmade gifts, you know, always the homemade cards and stuff like that. Because you don't need a lot of resources necessarily. It can be a walk somewhere, you know. Usually for like my husband's birthday, it's always brought, where's the hike this year? You know, just because of the time of the year. With my birthday, it's a little bit more flexible because it's in June and there's so many moving parts with graduations and stuff like that. But, yeah, I mean, and that's again, using the seasons as your, I don't know, you know, telling you, you know,
sort of an anchor.
Exactly.
You know, and also inspiration. And so, you know, then looking at the different holidays, there's different ways that, you know, like for our family, we do celebrate Christmas, but we also do winter solstice. And so there's certain things. There's the winter spiral, the evergreen spiral that we do at winter solstice, where the children walk through a spiral that we've made on the ground. And so, you know, some of these things can be very, very simple. Some of them can be very elaborate. And so I think we've talked about this in past episodes. Be careful what you cultivate, because once you've done a celebration, the children are going to want it forever. But the winter spiral is something that we really have enjoyed doing. And it's become sort of a neighborhood celebration as well. So that's something. Easter and Christmas, there's a special bread that is from the Scandinavian side of the family. And so I make that at Easter, and we put a dime in it. And then I make a loaf for each family, and whoever gets the dime in the family gets good luck for the year. I mean, you know, these things that have been passed down through the generations, but we can't go a holiday without them. You know, the children ask for them, and now the grandchildren are asking for them.
Yes, and the food piece is huge. You know, with whatever holiday or rites of passage is really making sure whether they ask for a certain dessert or something like that. And I like what you said. You know, you have to keep up, and that's been something like, you know, I had two children really close, as you know, and then Juliet, and so unfortunately Juliet, we've tried to keep everything, but it gets also very tiring too to upkeep. And sometimes I see these younger parents who are just going all out for everything, you know, and when the balloons and everything just for the morning of the birthday. And I'm just like, oh, they have 4 children. You really have to sustain that energy, but it does get tiring. So my advice would be to just stay small, stay meaningful, you know, stay meaningful and stay intentional, you know, and I think that's going to matter more than all the pomp.
I think that that's really key too. And we did have to scale back at a certain point. There was this awareness that we were getting a little bit, you know, involved. And I'm not saying materially, because we did try to keep things very simple and handmade and items from nature with all of the celebrations. But one can get a little carried away. But we're again looking at, so what is the meaning of this? And so, you know, whether we're celebrating 4th of July, or whether we're celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, or whether we're celebrating Valentine's Day, what is the key theme there that we want our children to be aware of, and how can we deepen the meaning around that in simple ways? And a lot of times it's the conversation, like you said, with the birthdays, you know, having each child pick a special word. With something like 4th of July, we're talking about independence and freedom. And so how do we celebrate that, and how do we honor that? And so, you know, there's so many different ways of looking at this. And I love with the seasons, especially like thinking about winter solstice, where we're heading into this. Well, winter solstice is, of course, the celebration of the longest night of the year, and then this coming light. But even in the fall, as we're heading into darker days ahead, we can be doing these activities that sort of fortify and strengthen us and prepare us, and, you know, gathering and harvesting and talking about what that means. And in our society nowadays, it can be so superficial, and we're not having to do so many of the things that people used to do 100, 150, 200 years ago and beyond. And so I think for our family, it was helping children understand what life is like for other people in other cultures, in other times, and to really strengthen that sense of gratitude, and also looking at generosity, how we can give back. Those are key things that we've brought into our celebrations, with doing things for other people, with having maybe a little gratitude journal. With the move, the question came up of, what were some of the things that you brought with you? What were the things that you carried on? And of course, the tablecloths, the candle holders, the flower vases that our children grew up with, we still have those. We're still carrying on the different traditions, and we're still celebrating these holidays in the same way. And how about your family? What are some of the things that you brought with you?
It's funny. I mean, we basically just took our old house and brought it here. It's a lot bigger, so we had to fill in. But one of the things that was important to us was this, was the art. I've really kind of made an emphasis on supporting artists, supporting art that we love, and then that also tells a story. So in certain anniversary trips, Brent and I we would get a piece of art, and that would represent certain things, certain time periods in our life. I've given my daughter a nice piece of art for her 16th birthday and stuff like that, so that's something that she will have, but I want her to have for the rest of her life to invest in. When we moved into this place, we bought a new piece of art together so that we all had basically a piece of it in a sense. And I really feel that, I'm looking over here, actually, there's a piece that was on our mantle of our old house, and we put it over the door frame of this house. So that's just this is this family that we are here. And I believe that when we talk about the family culture, when we talk about homeschooling and we talk about family culture, they really go hand in hand, because through homeschooling, you're able to strengthen your family culture. And all those things that you've said about the seasons and about the holidays, the rites of passage, those are all things that can be expanded into social studies, language arts, science, and everything. So it's really just so people can see that this piece is a piece of the family school. And that made the thread coming through is the strengthening of family culture. So when you sit down with your partners, you are able to really kind of design what type of family you want, in the sense of what is it from your side that you want to bring? What is it from your partner's side that they want to bring? And how is that going to be manifest in your family home together? Wherever your home is. And, I think that's an opportunity, and it's communication, and it's really, I think and I've said this before, but it gives something for your children to root into. And it reminds you of maybe of your past, because you're talking about the Scandinavian side, certain sides of breads and et cetera. For me, it's we always tamales, during the holiday season is that's something that my children know, and it's something that we look forward to every year.
Yeah, it's so interesting too. And as you were talking about that in the artwork, because these are the things that you take off the walls of your old home. And I'm thinking of even bedspreads or blankets or pillows for the couches and these things. And then you bring them to your new home. And that's this piece where the children then feel this comfort. They know these items. And, a lot of times we want to let go. I mean, we did let go of a lot of items in our move, but we have the key pieces that are here. And it was funny, the other day I was kind of looking around, and it's so much of ours is furniture that has been passed down through our family. And so there are the stories. And, it would be nice to do a brand new house with all new furniture. And yet I've seen that so often where people do a kind of a designer house, or they want to change things up, and then the keepsakes might be lost in that transition. And so when we think about that for our children, these items are comforts for them. They're anchors, as you were talking about the art. And I love this also, the idea that you picked out a piece of art together as a family to symbolize your new start in this new home. And I'm thinking about here, when we got to our new home in Montana, we hadn't done a whole lot. We kind of moved into a house that had been somebody else's. And slowly now we're starting to look at things. But we bought one of those Mexican star lamps that hangs over the dining room table. And the dining room table is a real focal point for our home, the meals, the gatherings, the celebrations around the dining room table. And so to have this light, that is beautiful and warm and cozy and that we've picked intentionally to hang over the dining room table is very symbolic for us. And then of course there's all the things that, that we did bring from our old home that now the children, when we get out the certain placemats that are only brought out in December, there's like this feeling of familiarity, comfort, tradition. And it also, when we look at the seasons, those are anchors for our children, things to look forward to. And I really feel that it helps their nervous system when they know that they have these things to look forward to and that there's this continuity and consistency. And moving a lot can be very disrupting. And I know my daughter, she and her family, they've moved a lot. And yet they've always had these specific items or celebrations that anchor. And, the parents, I think, are those anchors for the children as well. But I think it just invites this idea of taking the time to think about all of these choices that we have. And can we add a walk in? You talked about the birthday hike. I know my daughter, for her children's birthdays, they do a little bit of an independent walk, and depending upon how many years old they are, they walk a certain distance on their own based on however old they are. And I love that, so these are conscious decisions that we make, simple things that we do that really make such meaning to our moments. And I look at so much of society these days has let go of traditions. They've let go of celebrations, or there's so many celebrations that have become so material, that we talk about the hallmark moments,
Yeah, that's the piece. They've gotten way too material and way too excessive and away from the meaning. I mean, every day it's a national something day. It's you know what I mean? It's a national dog day. It's a national cat. It's everything. And it's almost too much, where you really, when you have too much, it takes away the meaning. And so I think, like I said, like really sitting down with your partner or with the entire family. I mean, you can start now. Maybe you haven't done anything up until this point. Maybe it's just, you've been just flying by your seat, and that is fine. But you have this opportunity to make things have more meaning, and why not? Why not go a little bit deeper? And sometimes people keep a family journal, and they can write in it. But I love what you said about your daughter doing like an individual hike or so, individual walk for their ages. That's really cute.
Yeah, it's really sweet. And the kids are so excited about it. And then of course we've done episodes on rites of passage. And I think that rites of passage, I just want to mention it here, that those are really meaningful for children. So whether you do one from like little kid to mid kid or in adolescence, that's a really lovely time. You think of, the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah, and those are these rites of passage where it's such a stepping stone from that being a kid to being a young adult type of a thing. And then also there's rites of passages as young adults. And so we can look at all of those different types of things. I know your family does lots of camping, and I feel like some of those the travel things, the trips, have become a real anchor for your family.
Yeah, it's part. I mean, again, that's part of our family culture. When we were I was in a preschool class, and teacher asked, like, what is your family artifact? And I remember, so think about that. Like, what is your family artifact? And I think we have that actually in our ebook, is talking about family culture. What is a family artifact? And it's just, think about that, because what is important to your family? What do you hold special? And I remember my family artifact was actually, went out to the car and I took off our license plate. Because our license plate, the number's like 5 dim is a part of it. And we always say it's 5 Duntons in motion. And that was part of our road tripping sort of thing. And so we kind of have this, like, we write 5 dim in certain places, special places, because that's kind of our mantra in a way, or our motto, I guess you'd say, that we are on the road. We like to explore. And, so when each of the kids, after 6th grade, they'll go on a rafting trip. We make sure that they can bring their friends, and they go on a rafting trip to kind of go into 7th grade together. So each of the kids have done that. And, Brent's going next weekend with Juliet and her friends. And there's always, end of the school year, always a raft trip, multi-day raft trip. And we're, and even as the kids are getting, with a 19 and 17-year-old, I asked for them, especially for the 19-year-old, like, just give me one family trip a year, because you're going to be on your own, you're going to be working, et cetera. But I just want one family trip a year, because that is really important to us, so that when we have, if we get so lucky to have grandkids, that I want to do a family trip at least once a year.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And this idea of the family artifact, the family motto, I was laughing thinking, oh, what would ours be? And I think, that our children, if they could only pick one thing, we have sort of this Christmas calendar that was brought from Europe. And I think that would probably be what they would pick. And it's just interesting to think of that. And I love that 5 Duntons in motion. I can't even imagine what our motto would be. I'll have to give that some thought. But, for our listeners, what a great activity. Think about, what is your artifact? What is your family motto? What are you known for? What are your kids, going to say, our family was really this?
Yeah, that's exactly. What are you known for? I remember I've asked that to families before, because that's it. And I remember, like, another example is a friend, her artifact, she actually brought in a headlamp, and she said that her and her husband, they read in bed every night with their headlamps. And for them, that was something that was representative of their family, because literature reading is a big part of their family. And so, it's just funny what different people, what's important to them.
Right. And so that whole concept of even, gosh, I just love that, like that shining the light on is this image that comes forward for me too. But to take the time to think about these things. One of my good friends, when the kids were little, her family was so musical. I mean, there was singing everywhere. And so when they were over, there was always lots of song, or when we would go on family trips together with those families, there was always lots of music. And our family didn't have as much music. And I really wanted that for our kids. We used to, we had the fire pit in the backyard. And so we used to joke that we'll build the fire, and then we invited all the musicians. And so the kids grew up with a lot of music, but it wasn't from my husband and I. And so, we created the container for it. So we're hoping to give lots of ideas for ways that you can think about these things and, think about what's important to your family. What are the things that you celebrate? How can you deepen that? How can you take that and, add, well, like we said, the more meaning. And you've said so many things, Sheila, that keep sparking ideas. And we've also had, just those certain items of clothing that have been passed down through the family that a child gets to wear at a certain time. I'm thinking about their own artwork that, we've saved and I've passed on to the kids when they've gotten to be a certain age, and they laugh, they look back at their main lesson books from Waldorf or art that I've saved, but those things have such deep meaning. And so even if they laugh at it, I think they really do appreciate it. I wanted to mention also just this whole concept of, with the holidays, again, thinking about what holidays does your family celebrate, what maybe are some of the traditions that have been passed down to you. Sheila, you really said that piece about having that discussion as to what you want to hold on to, what might be let go. We had a tradition of, on the Scandinavian side again, of lutefisk every year at Christmas, and we let that one go. But on the Armenian side of the family, the dolma, the cheese borag, the food has been huge. And so those are things that I know the children, the grandchildren really look forward to at certain times of the year. And my mother, who, she turned 90 this year, she still makes handmade dolma. She still makes different Armenian dishes that her mother used to make. And, it's such a treat when we show up. And even my childhood friends still remember all of these specialties that were made that were unique to our family.
I just turned 49, and I just have so much respect for my mom and my grandmother and like when you said your mother's 90 years old and she's still making the dolmas, it's really the moms I mean, and the dads too, but the moms that we're carrying it. We're carrying it forth. And I just feel like it's important to, just to grab a few things, grab a few things. You don't have to do it all. And I just want to say, because I feel like it's a different time now. And the screens take up a lot of space. And so if you can create create something that works for you, but don't add the extra stress. I think it's a balance. And I think being a mom has always been a tough job and one, but yet I do feel like the information overload, the keeping up, we're talking about these ideas and everything and they take energy to do everything. I used to, the first probably 5-6 years of having children, I had a sewing machine that I was working on regularly, doing these crafty things and loving it and everything like that. But I don't have the time right now. And not to beat myself up because I don't have the time. So just like my advice would be to just take a few things, start small. What is meaningful to you and run with it.
And also, what is meaningful to you, I really want to emphasize, because of course we don't want you taking on things that we've talked about here if you don't enjoy doing them. I love to cook. That was something that is part of our lifestyle every day. But also you said something about, the moms, and yes, we are the ones, the keepers of the hearth, the caregivers, and yet the other part, the other partner can be brought in so many different ways. And so, deepening the other parent's connection with the children, I think is really important. So in my family growing up, my dad, he was the one that took us skiing. He was the one that took us camping and fishing. My mom wasn't interested in those things. She took us to the city and we, did beautiful trips in San Francisco, or they both liked to sail. So we went sailing and so you can look at, whoever is helping with the caregiving of the children, whether it's a partner or whether it's extended family, what are some of their interests? And when our kids were growing up, they always had a special trip that they took with their dad. And it was just, the one child with dad went off and did a special trip. And there are many, many things that I know that they would say were things that he did with them that were very special that I didn't. And so we want to make sure that we're sharing those responsibilities, that we're letting everybody's talents and gifts be honored. And yet, what a wonderful invitation to say, what would you like to share with the children? And then asking the children, what are those special things as they get older that we want to hold on to? So lots of territory that we've covered today with all of these kinds of ideas. One other thing that we did was, we were so fortunate to have a family cabin that my parents, right before my husband and I got married, they built a little tiny family cabin up in the mountains. And so our kids had that to look forward to. So it was a seasonal thing. We'd always go up at least once or twice in the winter, but then in the summer we'd try to go for an extended period of time. And so whether it's a camping trip or a cabin trip or a travel thing that your family loves to do, those are things that the children really look forward to as well. So we hope we've given you lots of ideas here, and we hope you get inspired to think about what are the things that you want to do with your families to make those meaningful moments.
Yeah. And bringing it back to that roots and wings, it's like these meaningful moments are the roots. These are the ones that are creating those memories that will last a lifetime. And then the wings that, they're going to fly and they're going to take some of these things that were rooted in them. They're going to take that to their family. And that's tradition.
So thanks so much.
Yeah. I hope you guys are having a fabulous summer. And Maria and I are still excited to talk more about intentional parenting.
And we've got some great interviews coming up too. So stay tuned.
Thanks for joining us today for The Moms I Know. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To get the show notes and resources mentioned in today's episode, visit themomsiknow.com. For information on Maria's programs, visit thefutureoffamily.com. And for information on Sheila's programs, visit purplebeetfamily.com. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on iTunes and follow us on Instagram at The Moms I Know Podcast. Until next time, have a joyful family journey.